Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive, into the world of academic reading. We're going to be transforming those big old research papers, I think, from like intimidating foes, to valuable allies.
Yeah,
So ready to unearth some golden insights.
absolutely. And you know what's really interesting is that academic reading is a skill.
Oh yeah.
You can develop it just like any other.
Okay.
Think of it as learning a new language or mastering a musical instrument.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And today's deep dive is absolutely packed with techniques and strategies
Yes.
to help us level up our academic reading game.
Right.
So we've got some great source material that covers everything.
Yeah.
From previewing and active reading to deciphering visuals like charts and graphs.
It's all here.
Yet the whole shebang.
Yeah.
These are tools that go way beyond the classroom.
Absolutely.
Imagine effortlessly absorbing information from news articles, reports,
Yes.
even those super long emails we all dread.
Oh, I know.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Our sources highlight a few core processes of academic reading.
Okay.
We've got previewing, active reading, critical reading, and reflecting. It's like a roadmap to navigate the world of scholarly work.
Previewing is crucial.
Okay.
Think of it like scouting out a hiking trail before you set off. You want to get a sense of the terrain, anticipate any challenging sections, and decide where you want to focus your energy.
That makes so much sense. It's like checking the map before you embark on an adventure.
Exactly.
You don't want to get lost in the academic wilderness.
You don't want to get lost.
Right.
Now, active reading takes that exploration to the next level.
Okay.
This is where you become a detective, carefully examining the text for clues.
Right.
You're asking questions.
Yeah.
Challenging assumptions and piecing together the author's argument like a puzzle.
I remember one time when I almost fell for a seemingly credible source.
Woo!
But when I started actively questioning the claims and looking for evidence, I realized it was full of holes.
Wow.
Critical reading saved me.
It did.
From accepting misinformation.
It's the perfect example of why critical reading is so crucial.
Right.
It's your BS detector helping you separate fact from fiction bias from objectivity.
Our sources really break it down.
They do.
Giving us techniques to evaluate sources, analyze arguments, and spot those sneaky biases.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're handing us a toolkit to become master truth seekers.
And remember, critical reading isn't about tearing everything apart. It's about engaging with the material, thoughtfully asking tough questions, and ultimately forming your own informed conclusions.
I think that's the beauty of academic reading. It's not passive.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. Speaking of lively debates, our sources bring up a fascinating example.
Okay.
They present 2 articles on global warming.
Oh, wow.
One by Sandoval arguing for its urgency, and another by Cheney calling it a hoax.
2 very different perspectives. These contrasting viewpoints are a goldmine for applying critical reading techniques.
Oh, yeah.
It's a chance to compare evidence side by side, assess the author's credibility, and look for any potential biases.
Instead of just accepting one side or the other,
Right.
we get to put our critical thinking skills to the test.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It shows that academic reading isn't about blindly absorbing information.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with different perspectives and forming your own judgments.
Now let's look at a specific example from these articles.
Okay.
Sandoval, who believes in the urgency of climate change, cites a study from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change,
Okay.
a well-respected international body.
Yes.
He points to data showing rising global temperatures and connects this to human activity.
That's a good starting point, but it's not the whole story.
Right.
Remember, we need to look at both sides.
Okay.
Cheney, who called climate change a hoax,
Yeah.
might counter this by questioning the methodology of the study or presenting alternative data.
That suggests different conclusions.
So even with data, critical reading is key.
Absolutely.
We can't just accept numbers at face value.
Right.
We need to understand their context, their source, and how they're being interpreted.
Exactly.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion to get to the core of the argument.
Right. Cheney might also point to the potential biases of the researchers or funding sources behind the IPCC study.
Okay.
He could argue that there's a financial or political agenda driving the narrative of climate change, attempting to discredit the source itself.
Wow, this is getting fascinating. We're seeing how critical reading isn't just about the content.
Right.
It's about understanding the context, the motives, and the potential biases at play.
It's about becoming a discerning reader
Okay.
who can sift through information way different perspectives.
Yeah.
And arrive at a well-informed conclusion. And that's just the beginning. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've explored the core processes of academic reading, from previewing to that all-important critical lens. But guess what?
What?
There's another secret weapon in our arsenal.
Oh, I know you're about to say the dynamic duo of reading AAD writing.
Exactly.
They work together like partners in crime.
It's like a symbiotic relationship. Reading provides us with the raw materials, knowledge, vocabulary examples of compelling arguments.
Yeah.
And writing is where we get to refine those materials and forge our own understanding.
Think of reading as gathering the ingredients for a delicious meal.
Okay.
And writing as the process of transforming those ingredients into a culinary masterpiece.
I love that. So how does this play out in the world of academic reading?
Well,
our sources emphasize that reading exposes us to different writing styles and structures.
Yeah.
It's like learning the moves from the masters of the written word.
Absolutely. By reading academic texts,
Yeah.
we absorb those techniques. And then when we write, we're not just regurgitating information, we're synthesizing it, connecting ideas.
Right.
And developing our own unique voice.
That reminds me of something I struggle with sometimes.
Yeah.
An idea sounds brilliant in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But the minute I try to write it down, it falls apart. It's like the clarity vanishes into thin air.
You've hit on a key point. Writing has a magical way of forcing us to clarify our thinking.
Okay.
It compels us to articulate those fuzzy thoughts, structure them logically,
Yeah.
and fill in the gaps in our understanding.
It's like that saying, I write to discover what I know.
Precisely. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about those times when we face a text so dense it feels like we're hacking through a jungle with a butter knife.
Oh, yeah?
You know, the kind that makes you want to close the book and run for the hills?
I know those texts all too well.
Yeah.
They can be intimidating. For sure, every sentence feels like a mental obstacle course.
But fear not, dear listeners.
Yeah.
Our sources offer some practical strategies for navigating this complexity.
Okay, all right, let's hear them. What are our tools for taming these textual beasts?
First, never underestimate the power of pre-reading techniques.
So,
Skimming, questioning, creating outlines. These are like mapping out the terrain before you venture into the unknown.
right.
They help us break down the text into manageable chunks.
That makes sense. It's like having a roadmap to guide us through the dense forest of academic prose.
Exactly. Then, when we encounter jargon or unfamiliar terms, don't just gloss over them.
Right.
Use context clues, consult a dictionary,
Mm-hmm.
or even do a quick online search. It's all about becoming fluent in the language of the text.
So it's like we're building a vocabulary toolbox as we read, equipping ourselves to understand increasingly complex texts.
Right. And here's a point our sources really emphasize.
Okay.
Purpose is paramount.
Okay.
We need to be clear about why we're reading a particular text.
That's a good reminder. Are we reading for background knowledge to conduct a literature review to support our own research, or just for the pure joy of learning something new?
Identifying our why allows us to tailor our approach. If we're just skimming for main points, we'll read differently than if we're meticulously analyzing every detail.
It's like having a filter that helps us focus on the most relevant information for our specific needs. Now, speaking of engaging with different types of information, let's talk about visuals. I find charts, graphs, and diagrams incredibly helpful.
Oh, yeah.
They bring data to life in a way that words sometimes can't.
I agree. Visuals are more than just pretty pictures. They can make complex information more accessible and even more engaging.
Right.
They're like windows into the data, revealing patterns and relationships that might be hidden in paragraphs of text.
Our sources even break down techniques for analyzing visual texts.
They do.
We can observe elements, understand the visual rhetoric, and connect them to the written content.
It's like learning to read a whole new language, but one that's often more intuitive and visually compelling.
Now, are you ready to level up?
I think so.
Our sources introduce us to the boss level of academic reading.
Oh, here it is.
Comparative analysis.
The ultimate showdown.
This is where we take two or more articles on a similar topic and put those critical thinking skills to the ultimate test.
Our sources walk us through the steps.
Okay.
First, we select our articles carefully, ensuring they address a common theme or question.
Right.
Then, we define clear criteria for comparison. Things like the strength of evidence, the logic of the arguments, or the author's perspectives.
So it's not just about comparing apples to apples. It's about establishing a clear framework for analysis. We need to know what we're looking for in order to make meaningful comparisons.
Exactly. Then we move on to analyzing each article, individually taking detailed notes and highlighting key points.
It's like gathering all the ammunition we need before the big debate. we had to be well armed with evidence and insights.
Precisely. Once we've got a solid grasp of each article, we can start comparing and contrasting, looking for points of agreement, disagreement, and those subtle nuances in perspective that can lead to truly insightful conclusions.
It's like we're weaving a tapestry of knowledge, drawing from multiple sources to create a richer, more textured understanding of the topic.
And remember, comparative analysis isn't just about identifying differences. It's about synthesizing insights.
Right.
We're looking for the connections, the overarching themes, the new perspectives that emerge when we bring different voices into conversation.
This is where the magic happens. It's like the pieces of the puzzle click into place and we see the bigger picture with greater clarity.
And that, my friend, is the ultimate goal of academic reading, to not just absorb information, but to transform it into knowledge, understanding, and ultimately wisdom.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm still buzzing from our comparative analysis. Deep dive in the last segment.
It's great.
It's amazing how much richer our understanding becomes when we examine multiple viewpoints.
It's like adding depth and dimension to a painting instead of a flat one-dimensional perspective.
Yeah.
We're creating a multi-layered masterpiece of understanding.
Exactly. And it all comes back to, those critical reading skills. We've been talking about, remember that example from our sources about the 2 articles on global warming?
Yeah.
Sandoval urging action.
Right.
And Cheney calling it a hoax.
That case study perfectly illustrates how vital it is to be a discerning reader.
Yeah.
Especially when confronted with such polar opposite views.
We can't just passively accept one side or the other.
Yeah.
We have to activate our critical thinking skills, scrutinize the evidence, and consider the potential biases at play.
It's about becoming informed citizens who can navigate the complexities of the world with a sharp and analytical mind. We're not just absorbing information. We're actively engaging with it, questioning it, and forming our own well-informed conclusions.
It's empowering, right?
It is.
To realize that we have the tools to sift through the information overload and make sense of it all.
Absolutely. And that's where the true power of academic reading lies. It's not just about acing exams or writing brilliant papers. It's about equipping ourselves to engage with the world in a more thoughtful, informed, and ultimately meaningful way.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of academic reading, let's take a moment to recap those key takeaways.
Okay, sounds good.
We started by exploring the core processes.
Yes.
Previewing active reading, critical reading, and reflecting these are the foundational pillars.
They are.
Of effective academic engagement.
Then we delved into the dynamic interplay.
Right.
Between reading and writing, recognizing how these skills enhance and sharpen one another.
We unpacked practical strategies for conquering those intimidating complex texts.
Yeah.
Turning them from daunting obstacles into valuable sources of knowledge.
And we even learned how to decipher the language of visuals.
Yes.
Those charts, graphs, and diagrams that can illuminate data in a whole new way.
And finally, we level up our skills with comparative analysis.
The boss fight.
Putting our critical thinking to the test as we explore the complexities of contrasting viewpoints.
It's been a journey.
It's been an incredible journey, and I feel like we've gained some invaluable tools.
We have.
For navigating the vast landscape of academic information.
But before we sign off, I'd like to leave you with a thought-provoking question to ponder.
Okay.
How is academic reading evolving in this digital age?
That's a fascinating question. With the rise of online journals, ebooks, and even AI-powered research tools, the way we access and consume academic information is rapidly changing.
It raises some interesting points to consider. Are we reading differently online?
Yeah.
How do we evaluate the credibility of digital sources?
Right.
What new challenges and opportunities are emerging in this dynamic digital landscape?
These are questions worth exploring further, perhaps even sparking your own deep dive into the evolving world of academic reading.
Remember, the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong adventure. Stay curious. Keep those critical thinking skills sharp.
Yes.
And never stop exploring the fascinating world of ideas.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of academic reading. Until next time, happy reading, everyone.